The stray dog was starving and covered in fleas, but when a little girl saw him, the biting wind seemed to mock the meager warmth offered by the tattered coat draped over Maggie's thin frame. She shuffled down the alleyway, her eyes scanning the overflowing dumpsters for anything salvageable. A discarded can, a half-eaten sandwich, anything to quell the gnawing hunger in her belly. Life had been unkind to Maggie, a series of misfortunes leaving her adrift in a sea of hardship. She'd lost her job as a waitress months ago, and her meager savings had long since dried up. Eviction from her small apartment had been inevitable, and now the streets were her home, the harsh realities of homelessness her constant companion. A whimper broke through the clatter of a nearby delivery truck. Maggie's gaze fell upon a small, shivering form huddled beside a stack of overflowing trash bags. A stray dog, its ribs starkly visible beneath its matted fur, was desperately trying to reach a discarded hamburger bun, its nose twitching with anticipation. The dog's eyes, filled with a mixture of fear and desperation, mirrored Maggie's own. In that instant, a connection was formed, a shared understanding of hardship and hunger. Maggie cautiously approached the dog, her own hunger momentarily forgotten. She gently offered the dog a small piece of stale bread she had found earlier. The dog flinched initially, but the lure of food overcame its fear. It snatched the bread and devoured it in a matter of seconds. Maggie, touched by the dog's vulnerability, rummaged through her meager belongings and found a slightly bruised apple. She offered it to the dog, who accepted it with a wagging tail, its eyes shining with gratitude. As the dog ate, Maggie took a closer look at it. It was a young, mixed breed, probably no more than a year old. Despite its current state of neglect, Maggie could see the remnants of a once beautiful dog. Its fur, though matted and dirty, was a rich brown color, and its eyes, now filled with trust, were a warm, soulful brown. Maggie felt a surge of compassion for the creature, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. "I'm going to call you Hope," she whispered to the dog, a faint smile gracing her lips. The dog, as if understanding, wagged its tail and licked Maggie's hand. In that moment, amidst the squalor and despair of the alleyway, a bond was formed, a bond of friendship and mutual support. Maggie, despite her own hardships, had found a purpose, a reason to keep going. She would take care of Hope, and Hope, in her own way, would take care of Maggie. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the alleyway. Maggie knew she had to find a place to sleep for the night. She looked at Hope, her heart sinking at the thought of leaving the dog alone. But she had no choice. She gently patted Hope's head and whispered, "I'll be back in the morning. Wait for me here." With a heavy heart, Maggie left the alleyway, her mind filled with thoughts of hope. She had to find a way to help the dog, to give it a better life. But how? She was homeless and penniless. As she walked, a plan began to form in her mind, a plan that was risky, but one that might just work. It was a long shot, but Maggie was determined to try. For Hope's sake and for her own. The night was long and cold. Maggie found shelter in a doorway, huddled beneath a thin blanket she had salvaged from a dumpster. Sleep was fitful, punctuated by nightmares of her past and worries about the future. But through it all, the image of Hope's trusting eyes kept her going. As dawn broke, Maggie hurried back to the alleyway. Her heart pounded with a mixture of hope and fear. Would Hope still be there? Relief washed over her as she saw the dog patiently waiting by the trash bags, its tail wagging excitedly at her arrival. "You waited," Maggie exclaimed, her voice thick with emotion. She knelt down and embraced the dog, burying her face in its fur. Hope responded with enthusiastic licks, her whole body wriggling with joy. Maggie knew she couldn't stay in the alleyway. She needed to find a place where she and Hope could be safe and warm. An idea had been brewing in her mind since the previous night, a risky plan, but one that offered a glimmer of hope. She remembered an old abandoned church on the outskirts of town. It had been empty for years, a victim of dwindling congregation numbers and a leaky roof. But it offered shelter, and that's what they needed most. With Hope trotting by her side, Maggie set off towards the church, The journey was long and tiring, but the thought of a potential sanctuary spurred them on. As they approached the church, Maggie's heart sank. The front door was boarded up, and the windows were covered with grime. It looked more derelict than she remembered. But Maggie was not one to give up easily. She circled the building, searching for another way in. Finally, she found a small window at the back, its glass pane broken. With some effort, she managed to squeeze through, landing with a thud on the dusty floor inside. The church was dark and cold, the air thick with the smell of dampness and decay. But it was dry and it offered some protection from the elements. Maggie ventured outside again and coaxed Hope through the broken window. The dog hesitated at first, but with gentle encouragement from Maggie, she finally scrambled through. "Welcome home, Hope," Maggie whispered, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. She knew it wasn't much, but it was a start. Now they had a place to call their own, a place where they could begin to rebuild their lives. Maggie's immediate concern was finding food and water. She left Hope inside the church and ventured out again, scavenging for scraps and filling an old plastic bottle with water from a leaky tap in a nearby park. When she returned, Hope greeted her with excited barks, her tail wagging furiously. As the day wore on, Maggie explored the church, searching for anything useful. She found some old blankets in a cupboard, which she used to create a makeshift bed for herself and Hope. She also discovered a small broom and dustpan, which she used to sweep the floor, clearing away years of accumulated dirt and debris. By nightfall, the church felt a little less desolate. Maggie lit a candle she had found, casting a warm glow in the darkness. She shared her meager meal with Hope, and they curled up together on the makeshift bed. As Maggie drifted off to sleep, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She was no longer alone. She had Hope, and together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. Life in the abandoned church was far from easy. The nights were cold, the days long and filled with uncertainty. But Maggie and Hope were survivors. They found a rhythm, a routine that brought a sense of normalcy to their unusual circumstances. Each morning, Maggie would venture out into the town, leaving Hope safely hidden in the church. She would scavenge for food, searching through dumpsters and bins, always alert for discarded treasures. Sometimes she would find a half-eaten sandwich, other times a bruised apple or a stale piece of bread. Every morsel was precious, a lifeline for her and Hope. In the afternoons, Maggie would return to the church, her pockets filled with whatever she had managed to find. Hope would greet her with enthusiastic barks and wagging tail, her joy at Maggie's return a constant source of warmth and comfort. They would share their meager meal, savoring each bite, their bond deepening with every shared experience. Maggie spent her afternoons cleaning and tidying the church, determined to make it as comfortable as possible. She swept the floors, dusted the pews, and even managed to patch some of the holes in the roof using old tarpaulins she found discarded behind a nearby construction site. Slowly, the church was transforming from a derelict building into a home, a sanctuary for her and Hope. One afternoon, while exploring the church attic, Maggie stumbled upon a hidden treasure, a box filled with old hymnals and prayer books. Among the books, she found a battered guitar, its strings rusty and loose. Maggie had always loved music, and the sight of the guitar stirred something deep within her. She carefully cleaned the instrument, replacing the rusty strings with new ones she found in a pawn shop, purchased with the few dollars she had managed to save. That evening, as the sun set, casting long shadows through the stained glass windows, Maggie sat on a pew and played the guitar. Her fingers, stiff and clumsy at first, gradually found their rhythm. The music, hesitant at first, grew stronger, filling the church with a melody of hope and resilience. Hope sat beside her, her head tilted, her eyes shining with a gentle light. The music attracted an unexpected visitor. A young woman, drawn by the sound of the guitar, cautiously entered the church. Her name was Sarah, and she was a volunteer at the local soup kitchen. She had heard rumors of someone living in the abandoned church and had come to offer help. Sarah was initially startled to find Maggie and Hope, But her surprise quickly turned to compassion. She listened to Maggie's story, her heart aching for the woman and her loyal companion. Sarah promised to help, offering food and blankets from the soup kitchen. She also offered to spread the word about Maggie's situation, hoping to find her a more permanent solution. Maggie was overwhelmed by Sarah's kindness. For the first time since losing her job and her home, she felt a glimmer of hope for the future. With Sarah's support, perhaps she and Hope could finally find a way out of their predicament. Sarah's arrival marked a turning point in Maggie and Hope's lives. The young woman became a regular visitor to the church, bringing food, blankets, and warm clothes from the soup kitchen. She also brought news from the outside world, stories of kindness and hope that helped to lift Maggie's spirits. Sarah was determined to help Maggie find a more permanent solution to her housing situation. She contacted various shelters and charities, but the waiting lists were long and the options limited. Frustrated but undeterred, Sarah decided to take matters into her own hands. She started a fundraising campaign, spreading the word about Maggie and Hope's plight through social media and local community groups. The response was overwhelming. People were touched by their story, and donations poured in. Within a few weeks, Sarah had raised enough money to rent a small apartment for Maggie and Hope. The day they moved into the apartment was filled with joy and relief. It was a modest place, but it was clean, warm, and safe. Maggie and Hope explored their new home with wide-eyed wonder, their hearts filled with gratitude for Sarah's kindness and the generosity of the community. Life in the apartment was a world away from their time in the abandoned church. Maggie no longer had to worry about finding food or shelter. She could focus on rebuilding her life, on finding a job and creating a stable future for herself and Hope. With Sarah's encouragement, Maggie enrolled in a job training program, learning new skills that would help her find employment. She also started attending a support group for people experiencing homelessness, finding comfort and camaraderie in shared experiences. Hope thrived in her new environment. She had a warm bed to sleep in, regular meals, and a loving human companion. Her fur, once matted and dull, became glossy and soft. Her eyes, once filled with fear and uncertainty, now sparkled with joy and contentment. One sunny afternoon, while walking Hope in a nearby park, Maggie met a friendly woman named Emily. Emily was a dog lover, and she was immediately smitten with Hope. They struck up a conversation, and Maggie shared her story, her voice filled with gratitude for the kindness she had received. Emily was deeply moved by Maggie's resilience and Hope's unwavering loyalty. She offered Maggie a part-time job at her dog grooming salon, a perfect opportunity for Maggie to combine her love of animals with her newfound skills. Maggie accepted the offer with delight. She started work the following week, her heart filled with hope for the future. She had found a job she loved, a place to call home, and a community that embraced her and Hope with open arms. Working at Emily's dog grooming salon was a dream come true for Maggie. She loved being surrounded by animals, and she had a natural talent for calming even the most anxious dogs. Emily was a wonderful mentor, patiently teaching Maggie the tricks of the trade and sharing her passion for animal welfare. Hope became a regular fixture at the salon, greeting customers with enthusiastic tail wags and serving as a furry ambassador for the business. She even had her own special bed in the corner, where she would nap peacefully while Maggie worked. Life was good, but it wasn't without its challenges. Maggie still struggled with the emotional scars of her past, the memories of her lost job, her eviction, and the loneliness of homelessness. She often woke up in the middle of the night, her heart pounding with anxiety, the fear of losing everything again a constant shadow in her mind. One day, while working at the salon, Maggie received a phone call that sent her world into a spin. It was the hospital. Her estranged brother, John, had been admitted after a serious car accident. Maggie hadn't seen John in years. Their relationship had been strained since their parents' death, their shared grief turning into resentment and blame. Despite their difficult past, Maggie couldn't ignore her brother's plight. She rushed to the hospital, her heart heavy with worry. John was in a coma, his future uncertain. The doctors explained that he had suffered severe head trauma and might not wake up. Maggie was devastated. She spent hours by John's bedside, talking to him, sharing memories of their childhood, hoping that her voice would somehow reach him. She felt a surge of guilt for the years they had wasted, for the harsh words spoken in anger. Hope, sensing Maggie's distress, stayed by her side, offering silent comfort and unwavering support. The dog's presence was a source of strength for Maggie, a reminder that she wasn't alone. Days turned into weeks, and John remained in a coma. Maggie juggled her work at the salon with visits to the hospital, her life a constant cycle of hope and despair. Emily was incredibly supportive, offering Maggie flexible hours and words of encouragement. One evening, as Maggie sat by John's bedside, holding his hand, she felt a slight squeeze. Her heart leaped with hope. She called for the nurse, who confirmed that John was regaining consciousness. Tears of relief streamed down Maggie's face. She had been given a second chance, a chance to reconcile with her brother, to heal the wounds of the past. As John slowly emerged from the coma, Maggie was there, offering him love and support, her heart filled with gratitude for this unexpected turn of events. John's recovery was slow and arduous. He suffered from memory loss and confusion, and his body was weak from the trauma of the accident. But with Maggie's unwavering support and the dedicated care of the hospital staff, he gradually began to regain his strength and cognitive abilities. Maggie was a constant presence at the hospital, patiently helping John with his physical therapy, reading to him, and sharing stories of their family and childhood. She discovered a newfound compassion for her brother, seeing beyond the anger and resentment that had clouded their relationship for so long. As John's memory returned, he began to recall the events leading up to the accident. He had been driving under the influence of alcohol, a reckless decision that had almost cost him his life. He was filled with remorse and guilt, not only for his own actions but also for the pain he had caused Maggie over the years. One day, as Maggie sat by his bedside, John reached for her hand, his eyes filled with tears. "Maggie," he said, his voice hoarse with emotion, "I'm so sorry for everything, for the way I treated you, for the years we wasted. Can you ever forgive me?" Maggie, her own eyes brimming with tears, squeezed his hand. "Of course, John," she whispered. "I've already forgiven you. We both made mistakes. Let's just focus on the future, on being there for each other." The reconciliation between Maggie and John was a healing balm for both of them. They rediscovered the bond of love and loyalty that had been buried beneath years of hurt and anger. They spent hours talking, sharing their hopes and dreams for the future, their laughter filling the hospital room with warmth and joy. Hope, too, played a vital role in John's recovery. The dog seemed to sense John's vulnerability and would often curl up on his bed, offering silent comfort and companionship. John, who had never been particularly fond of animals, found himself drawn to Hope's gentle nature and unwavering loyalty. He would spend hours stroking her fur, finding solace in her presence. After several weeks, John was finally discharged from the hospital. He moved into Maggie's apartment, grateful for her willingness to take him in and help him rebuild his life. The apartment, once a sanctuary for Maggie and Hope, now became a haven for all three of them. John was determined to make amends for his past mistakes. He enrolled in a rehabilitation program, committed to overcoming his addiction and staying sober. He also started volunteering at a local homeless shelter, using his own experiences to help others who were struggling. Maggie watched with pride as her brother transformed his life. The anger and resentment she had held onto for so long dissolved completely, replaced by love and admiration. She realized that John's accident, though tragic, had ultimately brought them closer, forging a bond stronger than ever before. Life settled into a comfortable routine for Maggie, John, and Hope. The apartment, once filled with the quiet echoes of loneliness, now buzzed with the warmth of family and companionship. Laughter and conversation filled the air, replacing the silence that had once been Maggie's constant companion. John's recovery progressed steadily. He attended his therapy sessions diligently, found solace in his volunteer work at the shelter, and remained steadfast in his commitment to sobriety. The guilt and remorse that had haunted him began to fade, replaced by a newfound sense of purpose and a desire to make a positive impact on the world. Maggie continued to work at Emily's dog grooming salon, finding joy and fulfillment in her work. She had become an invaluable member of the team, her gentle touch and calming presence a comfort to even the most anxious canine clients. Emily, recognizing Maggie's dedication and compassion, offered her a partnership in the business. Maggie was overwhelmed by the offer. She had never imagined owning her own business, but the prospect filled her with excitement and a sense of accomplishment. She accepted Emily's offer, and together they expanded the salon, adding new services and hiring additional staff. The salon became a hub for the local dog-loving community, a place where people could bring their furry companions for pampering and socialization. Maggie and Emily organized adoption events, partnering with local shelters to find loving homes for abandoned and neglected animals. Hope, now a permanent fixture at the salon, continued to be a source of joy and comfort to everyone she met. She had a knack for sensing people's moods and would offer a comforting nudge or a playful lick just when it was needed most. One day, a young boy named Ethan came to the salon with his parents. Ethan was shy and withdrawn, his eyes filled with sadness. He had recently lost his beloved dog, and his parents were hoping that interacting with other dogs might help him heal. Hope, sensing Ethan's sadness, approached him cautiously, her tail wagging gently. She sat at his feet, gazing up at him with her soulful brown eyes. Ethan, hesitant at first, slowly reached out and stroked Hope's fur. A smile spread across his face, the first genuine smile his parents had seen in weeks. Over the next few weeks, Ethan became a regular visitor to the salon. He would spend hours playing with Hope, his sadness gradually fading as he formed a special bond with the gentle dog. Hope, in her own way, had helped Ethan heal, reminding him of the unconditional love and companionship that animals can offer. Maggie, witnessing the transformative power of Hope's love, realized that her purpose extended beyond grooming dogs and running a successful business. She wanted to use her platform to make a difference in the lives of both animals and people, to spread the message of compassion and kindness that Hope embodied. Inspired by Ethan's transformation and driven by a newfound sense of purpose, Maggie decided to expand her efforts beyond the salon. She began organizing workshops and events focused on promoting animal welfare and responsible pet ownership. She partnered with local schools and community centers, sharing her story and educating people about the importance of compassion and empathy towards animals. Maggie's workshops were a huge success. People were drawn to her genuine passion and her inspiring story of resilience and hope. She spoke about the challenges of homelessness, the transformative power of human-animal bonds, and the importance of giving back to the community. John, now fully recovered and thriving in his newfound sobriety, joined Maggie in her outreach efforts. He shared his own story of addiction and recovery, emphasizing the importance of second chances and the healing power of forgiveness. Together, Maggie and John became a beacon of hope for those struggling with adversity, their story a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The abandoned church, once a symbol of Maggie's despair, was transformed into a community center. With the help of volunteers and donations, they renovated the building, creating a space where people could gather for support, education, and companionship. They offered free meals, clothing drives, and workshops on various life skills, providing a lifeline for those in need. Hope, now a certified therapy dog, became an integral part of their community outreach programs. She visited hospitals and nursing homes, bringing joy and comfort to patients of all ages. She participated in reading programs at local libraries, patiently listening as children practiced their reading skills, her presence easing their anxieties and boosting their confidence. Maggie's story, once a tale of hardship and despair, became a source of inspiration for the entire community. The stray dog desperate for crumbs had not only transformed her own life, but had also touched the lives of countless others. Maggie, John, and Hope, a trio bound by love, resilience, and a shared commitment to compassion had created a ripple effect of kindness that spread throughout the town and beyond. Years passed, and the community center flourished, becoming a beacon of hope and a testament to the transformative power of human kindness. Maggie, John, and Hope continued their work, their lives intertwined with the lives of those they served. They had found their purpose, not in material possessions or personal gain, but in the simple act of giving back, of sharing their love and compassion with the world. And so, the story of the stray dog desperate for crumbs became a legend, a tale whispered around campfires and shared in hushed tones. It was a story of resilience, redemption, and the enduring power of love, a story that reminded everyone that even in the darkest of times, hope can blossom in the most unexpected places.